So the first question we have is really about collaboration, which was kind of the topic of this. In fact, the impetus for this particular session, there was actually an article written today about a SWAT team approach, which was like, how do you get all these people in your organization to come together so your vision is the same and that you're all on the same page and you're working towards the same goal. So that was kind of the concept for this. And Pam, why don't you give us a kind of a start on this topic and just what your perspective, what you've seen, what you see has worked, has not worked. Go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Well, I think as credit managers, we earn our salaries based on managing high-risk customers, making the deals go. We automate the decisions that are the easy ones, the small ones, the low-risk accounts, but it's those high-risk customers where we spend the bulk of our time from a credit risk standpoint. And we do this in a fairly formal environment. We like to build credit committees with our clients, just like banks do, where we sit down. Now we don't sit down anymore together, but we go on a Zoom call and we talk about the high-risk customers. So if we can take our customer base and talk about the lowest risk customers and then go all the way up to the highest risk customers, our clients, CFOs, want to say, where is my risk? And pinpoint that risk. So in our world, we have to be able to assign a score to a customer and look at the customers who are of high risk. And in credit committee, you have people from the executive team, so maybe the CEO, certainly the CFO, people from marketing and sales and operations. And together, you are making these decisions on what to do with these credits. So even if you have thousands of customers, some of our clients have 30, 40,000 customers. We're not having discussions every week on 30, 40,000 customers. We are just focused on those customers, usually the big ones, who are at higher risk of default, and how the entire team then is approaching that customer from a pricing standpoint, from a marketing offer standpoint, from terms, and what kind of information do we need from that customer. So I like to get that formal credit committee built so that we have buy-in. I'm not just making the rules on who's creditworthy and who's not. Together, we're building the policy, and then any company, any customer outside of that policy is brought to credit committee. That's our job in credit, to say, what does this team want to do? That's how we handle the high risk.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, first I would agree with everything that Pam said. Some of the things that have helped us, if I think back to, like I said, I'm going on 17 years here at Berlin. If I think back to when I started to where we are today, I think the first thing that I would say is the type of people that we work with. So the sales leadership, the operational leadership, right? You get that right person and it has the correct mindset. That's the first goal, is hiring the right people, right? Getting them aligned with the organization's goals. And many of the organizations that we've worked for, we currently work for, are sales driven, right? And so sometimes in credit, we feel that, sales is just going to make this decision, and therefore, like, how much say do I have in the matter here? And I think really, the things that has made me successful and my team successful is first building trust, right? If we don't build trust with our sales and operational leaders, then they're not going to want to listen to any of the recommendations or concerns that we have. Great example of, over the past few years, we've seen some big corporations file bankruptcy for financial reasons or for strategic reasons. And some of my credibility is now coming to light because I've been calling these things out for years on the watch list, right? And so the credibility is there. The second thing I think really is communicating. If you don't involve them in some of these decisions and get them involved, I like to refer to it as breaking down silos. Because if you have these silos up and everyone is doing their own work and their own thoughts in their own little area, it's never going to work. And so bringing them into the decision, hearing them out. Listen, half the time we're not in front of customers. We're not at their facility. We're not seeing the operation, meeting the people. And so we do have to trust our sales team that they are, good judges of character and they're looking out for the right thing. And so if we can do that and get that trust, break down the silos and bring everybody together, that's where I think you're going to start seeing a lot of wins for the company, right? You're gonna isolate some risk, and you're gonna celebrate those big wins. And so I think that's really where you start. And we particularly are talking about during an economic downturn. Well, having that trust and credibility, they're going to see, okay, this guy knows what we're talking about here. We should be looking out for X, Y, and Z.
Totally. Makes perfect sense. Bob, I know you have a couple thoughts to share on this
I'll
topic.
tell you, I think both you guys have nailed it. I was thinking as you were talking, Jeff, collaboration, in my view, actually has 3 points, because I was thinking, boy, you're stealing all my stuff, Jeff, darn it.
I'm sorry.
And collaboration is trust, communication, and the other thing is understanding. And that may be something that as a credit manager, you want to make sure that your folks understand, what are the motives of sales? Why is the request coming in the way it is, and try to understand. And it works the other way, having sales understand what your objectives are. People are motivated by what their self-interest is. That's just the way human animals work. So what you want to do is to understand what is their interest in a situation, and how can you come to a mutual interest. The mutual interest is successful company, a company that doesn't have a lot of write-offs or delayed payments or disruptions in their cash flow that are destructive to the company. So being able to show and communicate to salespeople a bigger picture and how it's in their best interest to work with you, and the inverse as well. I think that's very important. And in my experience, in some companies, there's a lot of headwinds here. It depends on the culture of the company. You mentioned sales-oriented companies. Sometimes this is really difficult work because, you really have to establish that kind of beachhead of trust and communication. and it's difficult, and it doesn't happen with a snap. So, and it also, the other thing is that a lot of it is driven by very senior management and what the culture of the company is. So as a, as a credit professional, I think you really have to focus on, rebuilding a culture so it's conducive to this type of collaboration. And it's hard in some companies, but I think those are the key elements.
Sometimes, Bob, we see the most successful companies with the collaboration bring in their salespeople to meet with credit. That's part of their orientation, is to understand what credit does and how important it is for sales to know that the sale isn't the sale until the money is in the bank. So we see that as a strategy that companies are using, and we love that. We love showing them what the tolerance is for risk and how we follow up on things. And so just that integration from the very beginning, I think, helps prevent a lot of misunderstandings down the line.
Yeah, have them understand what are your credit policies, why. And the opposite is true too, attending sales events, having your department interact. We talked about this a little bit yesterday in a session, drive-alongs, customer visits, tag-alongs. All of these things build, an understanding of one another and breaks down barriers. So there's some mechanical things you can do to really help develop this collaboration, and they're not that hard to do.
True.